What's up guys, Pat O'Neill here, and I'm back with arguably the most requested deck profile from you guys in many months. Many of you guys have hit me up on Discord, Facebook, and tagged me in multiple messages in the Dragon Ball Super card game Facebook group on ZamaFu using the anniversary box cards. For those of you guys who don't know, back in set 3, I tried very hard to make Zamasu as competitive as possible and tried to put him on the map with a deck called ZamaFu, which was a deck that tried to play a bunch of Goku Black Roses, specifically Joyful Strike Goku Black Rose, to create a huge board presence in one turn and then use Fu Shrouded and Mystery to make it so that your opponent couldn't respond to your army of 25k double strikes and then just wipe them out in one turn. The deck was basically low tier 2 at best, despite my best efforts on trying to push it as far as I could. It just was a little bit too slow for that format. Being a turn 5, turn 6 combo deck in a format where people could kill you on turn 2 with a good hand and veggies just didn't work out, even with Zamasu having the higher life total. So yeah, it didn't pan out there, but that said, it's still one of my favorite decks to this day, and is the deck I put the most amount of hours into, and it probably is the one that holds the closest place to my heart. I really love that deck. I met Danny Wynn through that deck. I met many of you guys in the community through that deck. I've had lots of just fond memories talking to people about it, playing with it, playing against it. So yeah, it was really like a labor of love, that deck. And when the cards were shown, Frisco and Zap were just like, come on man, you gotta do it. You gotta let them know you're the OG Zamasu player. You gotta let them know what's good. Show them the deck profile. So here we are, and as promised, I will show you guys the deck profile. So here it is in all of its glory. The new Zamasu deck. We'll first talk about the leader. Ability is once per turn you can discard a card from your life to your drop. If it's blue, you draw a card, and then at 2 or less life, he can flip them over and draw 2 cards. So this first ability was not used that often in the previous ZamaFu shell, because it was just you wanted to stay as high life total as possible to jam out as many Goku Blacks. Our threats have diversified quite a bit since then, if you can take a cursory glance at the entire deck. So we can actually aggressively use this in certain matchups to just amass a huge hand very quickly, because we're looking to try and close out the game or get an insurmountable amount of advantage by the 4th turn. Backside draws a card when he attacks, and then if you would take a damage, not take a card from your life area, but take a damage, you instead mill 5 cards. So let's go over the cards in the deck. First up is Supreme Kai of Time, Time Disruptor, which is a card from the Anniversary box, or as I've been calling her, Opt, for those of you who play Magic. It is just a 1 cost that draws us a card. The counterplay that makes it so that your opponent can't attack with cards that cost 2 or less until the start of your opponent's next turn is pretty sweet. Obviously you can as well, but you could take a quick look at the deck. There are no 2 drops in this deck, so that is not a drawback for us. You basically will just leave your energy open in the first turn or 2 of the game, and if your opponent plays a battle card that could aggress upon you, in response you just play this to draw a card. In fact, in the late game, you can honestly just hold this in your hand as a 5k combo, and depending on, say, if they're on Height of Mastery, right, and they might tap you out, you might not want to play this to look for a combo, but you might be able to, in response to a different battle card, play this and draw a card. Like, say they don't go into Height of Mastery, they didn't have it, and they just play something, you could just use this to get value. It's just a safe way to draw cards without actually having to commit energy until you're absolutely sure it's safe. It is a very high skill cap card, I feel like, and it does quite a lot for this deck. Next up is Fu the Dark Banisher. You can honestly make this any dark, I should say not dark overrealm, but any overrealm card you want. You could play Demigra, assuming you are not going to use the ultimate that we'll talk about later in the video. Because there is a lot of sparking effects in this deck, we only really want to play one big overrealm card. You could play Fu Shrouded and Mystery. I have been playtesting Fu the Dark Banisher. He's been very hit or miss for me. There are times where either I do not want to cast him because he's a little bit too cumbersome, because surprisingly this deck is faster than it looks, or he's just an absolute blowout and my opponent just loses their whole hand, especially after a Gogeta hero revived. He basically just makes it so that my opponent has very little options in dealing with things. So right now he's been good, but not as ridiculous as I originally assumed he would be. Again, it could just be dumb luck that it's not as good. It could actually be better than I think it is, but only time will tell. This slot right here can be literally anything you want it to be. I have chosen to make it a bomb over ROM card. Next up is 4 Senzu Beans. Best defensive card in the game. Don't have to explain it. It's the only defensive card that 2 for 1s, 3 for 1s, 4 for 1s, etc. Dimension Magic is at 3. Best blue negate, that's why we're playing it. It's also super awesome in this deck because we can awaken, at 3 life or higher now in the deck, and this is one way we can just get cards out of our, our life if we need it. It is possible to, if you need a huge hand in a hurry, say it gets blown out, you can use your leader ability to draw a card, play the 4-drop, awaken, draw 2, and then have Dimension Magic on deck to draw yet another card out of your life and recoup it later, just so that you have the 15k and the ability to draw off the backside. It lets you kind of, this and, the 4-drop Zamasu, which we'll talk about later, plus cards like Dimension Magic will allow you to kind of stabilize versus hand destruction decks, where previously Zamasu really, really struggled in those areas. So you have so much life also that 4 of this feels absolutely ridiculous. Zamasu regularly is a 13 to 14 life leader, so you definitely just don't need 4 of this. I feel like it's just absolute overkill. What you do need 4 of though is Plan for Destruction. This card is absolutely ridiculous. If this card gave plus 15k, like all of the other 1-cost extra cards that were given to us in the anniversary box, this card would be absolutely snapped, and you guys would be complaining about it. This card has overperformed way more than I anticipated. I originally was like, oh, that's cute, maybe you'll play 2. But since this is Imasu, you'll always be wanting to, mulligan for objection. You always need at least 1 in your opening hand. You just throw everything away if you don't have objection. So your line of play is always turn 1 play, turn 2 objection, turn 3 onwards, do whatever. So once you get to objection, you guarantee on your 3rd turn you're at 4 energy, and your opponent on their 3rd turn is at 3 energy. If you choose not to tap out and you have a bunch of energy on your turn 3 and they swing at you and you have a handful of Plan for Destructions, you can easily just fire off 2, 3, even all 4 if you had them immediately on turn 4, and you can just ramp to 7, 8, 9 energy on your 4th turn. It is absolutely a blowout, and being able to bait your opponent into one of these, attacking you so that you can get one of these resolved on the 3rd turn, leads for some very swingy game states, because you'll be basically on, what is that, 4, 5, 6 energy based on how many of them are in your hand. Card is super, super good. I ideally like to try to mulligan to get 1 objection and 1 Plan for Destruction in my opening hand if I can help it. Other pieces are obviously combo pieces that we want to keep as well. Next up is Deadly Defender Vegeta. We do play a Gogeta package, so we do need some form of Vegeta in the deck. Originally, I had at all costs Vegeta, but found that he was never really relevant for his ability to remove things, and I didn't really ever want to take the cards out of life that much anyway, because of how I've chosen to play a lot of the matchups. Whether that's correct or not remains to be seen. I'm still trying to figure out all the matchups in this current new format, but Deadly Defender Vegeta was a suggestion from Joey Palladino from Shenron's Lair, as well as Crossworld TCG. He gave me the idea because on turn 3, I would constantly be just tapping out or leaving everything open for Plan for Destruction. Deadly Defender Vegeta lets me hedge my bets quite a bit, because it gives me not only the 4, 20k Vegetas that I need for the Gogeta package, but this lets me play a card that can aggress on 3 and still leave up an energy for Senzu Bean, Dimension Magic, and Plan for Destruction, as well as protect my life total against certain matchups. This is just another card they have to punch through. If they're they went first, it's possible for me to just have Deadly Defender down, and if they're on a Height of Mastery deck, it lets me kind of just like resist it just a little bit, give me some form of protection. So just overall really solid card because of what it does, because it's a 20k Vegeta, and because it allows me to play this broken card. So really awesome. Next up is Awe-Inspiring Intimidator SSB Vegeta. Very much the same reason as Vegeta. It is pretty much the same card, only this time it cantrips, so that makes it super awesome. Obviously less of these than Vegeta because it's named Vegeta. Still really, really strong defensive card, and it also looks really cool with the card with similar artwork, which is the next one we'll be talking about. Undying Zamasu, another Ultimate Box card. This is a 20k indestructible, which means dropping this card on board means it is a consistent, inevitable threat that your opponent can't deal with. So you're just going to constantly be hitting for a free 20k every turn. More importantly than that, if your leader is Zamasu and you have 5 or more energy, you can take 2 damage, so either mill 10 cards or take 2 life if you're unawakened. In that case, you just switch all the energy you paid for this card back to active mode. So this basically has replaced Joyful Strike, Goku Black Rose as the way to just spam out a board quickly. If you choose to keep your life total high because you have a couple of these in your hand at the beginning of the game, you can play 2 or 3 or 4 of these cards in a turn based on how many are in your hand, develop a huge board quickly for no real cost, and amass a ton of cards, right off the get-go. So one of the lines you can do is play 2 or 3 of these into Fu the Dark Banisher, or 2 or 3 of these for free into Gogeta Hero Revived, or 2 or 3 of these into Fuse Zamasu Fusion Refined, 2 or 3 of these into Vegeta, 2 or 3 into Vegeta. You get the point. It's free body, and it enables quite a number of combos. It also, important to note, because it can mill you when you are awakened, it is super integral to activating the ability of the next card, which is Fuse Zamasu Fusion Refined. 15k indestructible is obviously worse than Undying Zamasu, but it does allow us to awaken at 3 or more life, which makes it a godsend against critical based hand destruction decks. It allows us to reload in one of our worst matchups. Like, it's arguably one of the worst matchups ever for Zamasu historically is hand control. This allows us to get around that and reload very quickly with 4 cards out of nowhere in the hand, which is really good. Again, 15k inevitable attacker is great, but the real reason why we are even talking about this deck in the first place and this leader in the first place is his activate main, which is pay 2 and put him in the drop. If you have 15 or less cards in your deck, you can play an Infinite Force Fuse Zamasu in your hand and play it, which is the 10 drop from Union Force, which is arguably one of the best battle cards in the game, and we will talk more about that when we get to it. So yeah, this card super powerful, and this one card makes I think everything else in the deck pretty much possible. I mean, this and Plan for Destruction basically makes this entire archetype work. This is, along with Objection and Plan for Destruction, this is the 3rd most important card, and you want to try to see this in your opening hand if your plan is to push for Infinite Force Fuse Zamasu as a finisher. Next up is our Goku Package, which is part of Gogeta, as well as other things. So we have Son Goku, Path to the Infinite, 5-drop 20k, or you can bounce a blue card that costs exactly 4 for 1 energy to put this card into play from your hand. Notable is the fact that we have 2 Zamasus that are 4 drops, one of which is free. So it is possible to play 2 to 3 Undying Links, then drop this Goku, and then attack with it. It is also possible to sequence it in such a way to get, like I said, multiple attacks out of it. But on top of this, he is a 5-drop blue, which means that he is a target for Ultra Instinct Sign Son Goku, as well as Ultimate Spirit Bomb Son Goku. Which one you decide to play in your deck as an alternate finisher depends entirely on your meta, and it is a meta call or a gut call, whatever you want to call it. So this card is super good just because, again, we got this card for free, we got this for 1, and then you can either get Spirit Bomb for another 1, or Son Goku Ultra Instinct here for 2 blue. So it's very realistic on your turn 4 to drop 2 of this guy into this guy for a free attack, or choose it to go into one of these 2 7-drop finishers and then still drop something like Dark Banisher Fu all in 1 turn, which is quite impressive. Like, the amount of explosive plays you have on turn 4 in this are just very high. Ultra Instinct Son Goku is great if you are in a meta where everybody is trying to go wide with Skillless Kid Goku or Veggies, or even Path to Greatness into Height of Mastery, so you can bounce the barrier cards. So you want to choose that in that scenario because of its ability to not only wipe the board, but provide a 35k triple strike threat that, if not negated, is pretty much game ending. Broly, Height of Mastery, it comes to mind specifically because that goes to 3 to 4 life very quickly in the game, and they only run 3 to 4 negates usually, so this could spell their end very quickly on turn 4. Ultimate Spirit Bomb Son Goku is more for if your metagame consists primarily of heavy defensive decks, whether that is Chilai or Janemba, which is notorious amongst the community. If you are playing against a Janemba, you may want to play 2 Spirit Bombs instead of the 1-on-1 split, or possibly even cut a card like one of these Supreme Kais or one of these Vegetos to add a 3rd one. Based on the amount of 10Ks, you can see there's quite a lot of 10Ks in this deck. The Ultimate Spirit Bomb Son Goku allows you to play an unnegatable threat that can just bin all of your energy for 65, 75k double strike very easily. And based on the point you are in the game, your opponent's energy and your own energy, it might be possible to just jam a bunch of plan for destructions as well in the same turn and just recoup all of your energy back later on. So lots of like really interesting plays you can do with both these Gokus and these Imasus into this 5-drop Goku. Next up, Gogeta Hero Revive. The card is the juggernaut. Like it's the boogeyman. It literally shreds certain matchups. Janemba in particular, this card just completely puts the game out of reach if you do this card, this combo on turn 4. There are many other decks that this card, such as Skillless Kid Goku. If you drop this, you go first, drop this card on 4. Based on what you followed it up with, really difficult for them to come back from. Yeah, just incredible 7-drop. You guys already know it's topped like everything under the sun. Yes, it doesn't really win often, but the card is still just really powerful, and a lot of people have always said it should be banned or close to ban, myself included. I don't know exactly if I feel that way now, as the way things have shaken out. The format might be a little bit too slow for it, but the card is still very, very powerful. It is still a very powerful effect. Important to note, you must have a life in your life area to activate his Sparking 10. So when you awaken, before with Zamasu, you would want to awaken at 1 life to make sure you got everything out of your drop, everything out of your life. You get every little bit of card advantage. Now, because of cards like Dimension Magic and Gogeta Hero Revive, it may be better to awaken at 3 life or 2 life to guarantee that you have the ability to Gogeta Hero Revive to kind of clinch those matchups. And then next up is the card I'm sure many of you guys have been eyeballing since I revealed the deck list at the start of the video. Miraculous Fighter Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta is, a critical ultimate deflect card with Sparking 15. You could choose a Goku and Vegeta card from your drop area and place them on the bottom of your deck and switch this card to active mode. So we're already playing a Gogeta package, and we are also playing a leader that consistently puts cards from our deck into the drop. It just felt like a match made in heaven. Shoutouts to Jose's friend Lincoln Pertuset. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Lincoln was the one that originally suggested the idea to Jose. Jose pitched it to me because I was looking for a finisher. I was thinking maybe Demigra, and then he pitched this idea to me, and I was like, you know what? It actually is really synergistic with the deck. It has lots of combos, and it actually allows us, it gives us a little bit more reach against Janemba. I don't really think we need it, because if you guys have looked at the Ultimate Spirit Bomb, the Gogeta Hero Revived, and now this, and the next card that we're going to talk about, I think we've got the base covered, but this card just has such synergy with the leader. The ability to just drop this guy after a hero revived and constantly just put all the cards that you milled back into your deck is super good. If you open a bunch of Undying links and this guy in your opening hand or relatively early, you know that you can play incredibly aggressive because you are basically gaining life by attacking with this card. As long as you don't get Mifuba'd like outright, you're probably in a really good spot to win the game with this card if it ends up coming on board. Card's like sitting at like $40 right now. If this deck takes off and this ends up being the optimal finisher, only time will tell. Card will probably go up. I know many of you guys probably have one of these just sitting around in your binder and are like, man, I wish I could play this into something and play this in something really cool. I encourage you to give this deck a try. See if he performs to your liking. So far in my few test games that I've had with him where I've been able to actually draw him and he doesn't get milled, he's been an absolute house and pretty much just auto wins the game on the spot in almost every matchup, because just the sheer number of attacks generated plus the amount of cards he puts back in the deck is just super awesome. Next up is Infinite Force Fused Zamasu, which is probably the best battle card in terms of quality ever printed. The only one I think that's in the conversation is Victory Strike, because outright wins the game. This card might as well say you win the game when you get it in play on turn 4. There's very few battle cards, like I said, that even come close to this card's quality. 30k is pretty big. It was huge by set 2 standards. Now it's just whatever. Like it's big, but not super big, because we have 35ks and 40ks now running around in the format. So yeah, 30k is pretty big. Can't be removed from the board due to indestructible, and every time it swings, your opponent, you get to bottom deck their best battle card, bottom deck an energy, bottom deck a card from their hand at random, and then bottom deck a life. This is the control finisher. It's just very powerful. It's nearly unbeatable. Like if your opponent doesn't like Crusher Ball this the turn it comes into play, like, oh man, they are just in for a world of hurt. You can get this into play as early as turn 4, courtesy of our new friend Fuse Fusion Refined, and it's possible to get 2 of them into play by turn 5. And at that point, I don't think there's anything your opponent can do to actually, win the game. If you have the ability to go this route, either through self-milling with Undying Link, or if you're playing against Janemba and they self-mill you, I encourage you to do it. 4 is a bit too cumbersome. 3 gives us enough where we will actually see 1 to 2 copies every game, right on time by turn 4. So really like this card as a finisher. I find myself using Gogeta here, Revived, and Goku more often as finishers, but this card, if it is safe to drop it, and your opponent just doesn't have a huge energy or huge board or huge hand lead on you, at that point you're just winning. Like, you're just gonna grind them out. There's nothing they can do about it. So yeah, really, really powerful finisher. It always has been. It just never had the ability to come into play in any reasonable time frame without playing absolutely terrible cards. So here you go, guys. Bandai gave us a love letter. I suggest we take advantage of it. And then finally is Elegant Assistance Hellas, which is a card I've been singing the praises of since the Ultimate Box was shown last summer. It is Hoi, but for God leader types instead of just Hero to Garn. It's probably still the best super combo in the game. Defending Father Paragus is pretty much the only thing that comes close to this. Funny that they're both in green. A lot of leaders can use this, and just the ability to discard 1 to draw 2 for a super combo is just better than most super combos in the game. I'd say like 95 to 99% of super combos in the game. So since we have access to this, since we are God, we might as well just take advantage of it. This card is sitting between 30 and 80 cents in foil right now, considering I expect Vados, Champa, and Zamasu to all be at least fringe playable, possibly even competitive playable. The card should go up in value because everybody's going to want to play it. So if you guys haven't, please pick up your copies now. Same thing goes with this Miraculous SS3 Gogeta if this ends up taking off. So there you go, guys. This is the original shell that I've come up with for ZamaFu for this set. Let me know in the comments below if you guys like it, if you can think of anything to help improve it. I'm all ears. I don't know if this will be something I'll take to AARG's Invitational. I might, because I'm the madman. I don't know, again, if it's meta, but this deck's just super sweet. So far, it's been an absolute blast to play. And I really hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. Enjoy this deck as well as the original ZamaFu. Alright, guys, that's it for me. Okay, bye!